Welcome back to another episode of the Holocore. Today's file, the legacy of the Doomhammer. The Doomhammer, a weapon whose name echoes through history as a harbinger of destruction and bringer of prophecy. Forged during the days of the Ogre Empire's rise to power on Draenor, the Doomhammer's story starts with an orc named Gelnar. It is said that during a storm that forced Gelnar to take shelter in a steam cavern in Gorgrond, the orc was afflicted by a fever-induced vision. In a haze, Gelnar offered himself in spirit and body to the elements of Draenor and submerged himself into a pool of lava. Astonishingly, the orc was unharmed. Orcish legend states that the Doomhammer's head was coaxed from the very fiery heart of Draenor, and later, when Gelnar carved its oaken handle, the Doomhammer was complete. When Gelnar wielded the Doomhammer, holding it upwards as he roared his battle cry, the elements responded. The very skies of Draenor cracked with thunder, while the earth itself shook. From that day on, both the name and the weapon Doomhammer would be passed down from father to son. At some point during its earliest days, a prophecy was tied to the weapon. The last of the Doomhammer line will use it to first bring salvation, and then doom to the orc people. Then it will pass into the hands of one who is not of the Blackrock clan. All will change again, and it will once again be used in the cause of justice. Eventually, the Doomhammer would pass into the possession of a young Orgrim Doomhammer. Orgrim would attempt to negate the prophecy by returning the weapon to the pool it was forged in, believing he could unmake its destiny while keeping the weapon's power. In response, the elements of Draenor reclaimed the weapon into its fiery depths. His chieftain, leader of the Blackrock clan, would be the one to reclaim it. Clearing his mind of pride and glory, the Blackrock chieftain reached into the pool of lava and seized the Doomhammer. The elements detected that while the chieftain was not worthy enough to wield the weapon forever, he would play a role in its destiny. The Blackrock chieftain emerged from the pool terribly scarred, but alive. From that day on, his name would be known as Blackhand. Blackhand would return the Doomhammer to Orgrim later, who would wield it for many years to come. Orgrim would wield the Doomhammer as the orcs crossed over from their world to Azeroth, and as the first war drew to a close, Orgrim changed the fate of his people forever. Orgrim challenged Blackhand, now warchief of the Orcish Horde, for leadership. Blackhand was no longer the same chieftain that Doomhammer had pledged his life to in his youth. He was a puppet for the orc warlock Gul'dan, and Orgrim could no longer stand by and watch as he led his people down the path of destruction. The two Blackrocks dueled in a Mak'gora, an orcish duel to the death. After clashing their weapons and dueling for hours, Orgrim ended the fight by crushing Blackhand's head with the Doomhammer. Orgrim would lead the Horde forward and bring the first war to a close as the orcs sacked the city of Stormwind, forcing the survivors to flee. Orgrim would wield the Doomhammer throughout the Second War. As the war entered its final hours, Orgrim would engage the Lion of Azeroth, Anduin Lothar, in a legendary battle. Despite Anduin's martial expertise, Orgrim triumphed. The warchief brought the Doomhammer down, smashing through Lothar's blade and crushing the skull of the Supreme Commander. Despite this decisive victory against the Alliance, the Horde would soon lose the Second War. Many years after the Horde's defeat, Orgrim Doomhammer would come out of hiding and assist the young orc named Thrall in freeing the orcs from the Alliance internment camps. Before all of the orcs could be freed, Doomhammer was struck down. As he lay there dying, Orgrim would pass on his famous hammer to Thrall, who would rise up and take up the mantle of Warchief. Warchief Thrall would have the Frostwolf sigil, the symbol of his ancestral clan, added to the head of the hammer. Sometime before his death, Orgrim revealed to Thrall that although the weapon had once helped him feel closer to the elements, over time it had become dead weight in his hands. Thrall would rise to become one of Azeroth's most powerful shaman, and would wield the Doomhammer with honor and integrity. Recently, however, history has repeated itself for the Doomhammer and its wielder. Following the execution of Garrosh Hellscream, former war chief of the Horde, Thrall has felt conflicted by an internal struggle. The weapon that had come to represent justice and honor had been used as a weapon of vengeance. The elemental spirits had fallen silent when Thrall called upon them, the Doomhammer becoming dead weight once again. These events have caused many to wonder if the prophecy about the Doomhammer wasn't in fact referring to Orgrim or Thrall, but rather a future wielder of the legendary Warhammer.